to 44. I give it to you that are not dead, but asleep. Asleep to show men that without me, you on your own are a poor, ignorant non-entity, weak, at the mercy of your humanity. This is not a sleep of death. Those who live outside of me are dead. You are nailed into me more than a pearl oyster to a rock. You have taken root in me more than mistletoe, arising in the hollow of two branches, and sinking its roots right into the pith of the tree bearing it. You are more united to me, more united, I say, than a child in his mother's womb. For when the time comes, she discharges him. The more time passes, the more you identify with me, and when time no longer exists for you, you will then no longer distinguish between yourself and me. Nor will anyone be able to determine where Maria ends and Jesus begins, for you shall be eternally absorbed by your God. O paradise, how you will then enjoy your paradise, you that are now traversing hell for a loving reason, and are not destroyed by it because the burning of love is stronger than that of hell, but you are terrorized by it. For if love protects you, it does not keep you from seeing. And to see the kingdom of Satan is such a horror as to turn a young person's hair white, because in addition, the memory of God does not shine there. The memory. In just remembering him, hell would no longer be hell. And for those who live adoring the face of God, not to see this most holy face is already a torture. Furthermore, not to be able to even remember him is a torture compared to which all human tortures and forms of cruelty are child's play. In short, it is hell. I say to you, come out. If I did not call you this way, for some pauses of blessedness as short as a bird's song, but as sweet as an instant in heaven, you would die. You cannot withstand. You were right. It is too severe for you. The decree must be mitigated. This statement is explained in the following dictation. Maria, my mother has spoken on your behalf, as she promised you. See May the 4th. Come out of your tomb. Breathe. Look. Here, your king is ordering you to. Yesterday, you were no longer able to follow me, poor Maria. I shall resume the unfinished topic. The lion, I said, knows the habits. He studies them in order to know them, of those he wants to tear to pieces. He is very intelligent. He understands at once. Satan is also very intelligent and understands at once. He is still an angel, fallen, but remaining such in his mind, which he now uses for evil, whereas I gave him a powerful mind to do good. The lion knows that his quarries go to quench their thirst in the evening to the channels of water which furrow sun-scorched lands. He knows which pastures they go to in order to graze on the thick grass. He knows when man returns from work to his dwellings. He has only to pause alongside these resting places. The wish for physical relief, or human imprudence, leads man and animals towards his inexorable claws. The meek gazelles and the swift antelopes, so cautious and fearful by day, thus become bold at nightfall. Thirst and hunger spur them on, and they go out to meet death. Man, too eager for gain, thus lingers on to work after sunset, and death brings him to a halt forever on his return. Carnal appetite thus pushes two people beyond the protection of inhabited areas to seek refuge for their illicit love, and the beast eternally dissolves what their lust has joined. But in African lands or in icy regions, it is always the same three-pointed goad which spurs men towards Satan's clawing. It is always concupiscence involving flesh, money, and power that brings you within reach of the one who, like a roaring lion, prowls around you tirelessly. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. Remember that I too was tempted in my flesh by hunger in my belly, and the offering of fleshly food to my senses, in my mind by the craving for power, and in my spirit by the suggestion that I tempt God. Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11, Mark chapter 1, verses 12 and 13, and Luke chapter 4, verses 1 through 13. Imprudence is to tempt God. Be able to imitate me. Put Satan to flight by imitating Jesus, your master. Man lives not only on bread, but on the word of God. You shall not tempt the Lord your God. You shall worship the Lord your God and serve him alone. Wrap your flesh and your spirit in the bands soaked in the balms of the law of God. Those who lived in them, those who live wrapped in them, preserve their flesh and their spirit from the germs, bringing the putrefaction of diseases and death. That's enough, Maria. I shall let go of you. Return to your place of pain. Mercy is already acting greatly with you in giving you this solace in this hour of expiation. Be off in peace. Then on May the 13th, 6 p.m. on May the 12th, really, I introduce the date of May 13th because Jesus so desires. An observation Jesus makes to me as I reread the dictation on February the 20th in relation to the Passion of Jesus and the sorrows of Mary. See note 181. You have forgotten a word, and of course it has not been copied, and this entails a contradiction with what is later stated by you in the vision on Good Friday, on April the 7th. John's meeting Mary in the house of the Last Supper put things in order as follows, and he shuttles between Caiaphas's house and the Praetorium, Caiaphas's house and Herod's place, and all over again between Caiaphas's house and the Praetorium. It is for this reason that John can say, I did everything possible so that he would see me. I sought to have recourse to the powerful to obtain mercy. In reality it is a trifle, but we live among Pharisees more intent on catching someone in the act than the Pharisees in my time were. We must be very heedful in turn. The usual Pharisees will make a biting observation. Why didn't the Master call the spokesman's attention to this error before now? To show you once more, I reply that you are so relative that even if you are spokesmen or directors of a spokesman, you do not notice the oversights which distort the facts. You read, meditate, copy, and leave the mistake caused by an omission of a word, which brings about a shift in the situation. Correct, and have it corrected, at least in the original. Complete notebooks. Observe that, beginning in your manuscript, the word Caiaphas is omitted. You were too exhausted that day from both the long-suffering of the vision you had had, the burial of Jesus and the desolation of Mary, and the bombing undergone, that you were slow to follow the dictation, nor did you perceive or note the mistake afterwards. There is nothing serious about this. It does not damage any sacred truth, but it is good to be exact even in secondary truths. The aforementioned Pharisees will also make another observation concerning yesterday's dictation. I said, you were right. It is too severe for you. The decree must be mitigated. See note 326. I can already hear the scandalized chorus of these doctors of quibbling. But what is this? Didn't God know that this was too severe? She is blaspheming by accusing God of not being perfect in understanding and applying. I shall reply, once and for all, with the words uttered by me 20 centuries ago. If the days of the final torment were not lessened, not a single soul would be saved, but they will be shortened for the sake of the chosen. Footnote Matthew chapter 24, verse 22, and Mark chapter 13, verse 20. If this can occur for all believers in the final hour, a mercy as big as the earth to save the greatest possible number of souls from the desperation of horror, can't it be used with this little one who by God's will has a foretaste in herself of what will be the spiritual torment of the good in the last days? I thus defend her. I too should have borne the cross alone. That was the decree, but it was too much for my weakness, and man granted me help. Matthew chapter 27, verse 32, Mark chapter 15, verse 21, and Luke chapter 23, verse 26. And shouldn't she who is bearing a cross of expiation so great that it is killing her receive help? Let it kill her then. It is a holocaust, but let it not drive her mad in her spirit, which she has entrusted to me. She underwent the first part of her trial and remained faithful. I alone know the battles she had to fight. The tempter promised her joy. She clasped pain more tightly to herself because joy was evil and she wanted to follow good. The taste of the fruit of good is most bitter for human flesh. Only in the other life does it become the honey of paradise. To have rejected Satan meant drawing down his hatred upon her, multiplied 100-fold. To leave her completely at his mercy meant losing this heart. God is not inexorable, and for the sake of the chosen, he modifies his decree. I too had the angel in Gethsemane. Luke chapter 22, verse 35. Luke chapter 22, verse 43. He had not been planned on, but the prayers of my mother obtained him for me, the woman who is now receiving a ray of sunlight, a drop of comfort, and an instant of fresh air every day, so that she will not die before her mission is accomplished, has had my mother as her advocate, and other chosen souls on earth and in heaven who have prayed for her. She has had my mercy, which has set itself up as a queen over against the Father's justice, and said, I have mercy as well. For if I am the first one, in heaven and on earth, who has respect for the decrees of the eternal Father, I am also he to whom all judgment has been handed over by the Father, and can thus say to my and your Father, Father, have mercy on this creature of mine. John chapter 5, verse 22. Nor should you think that she is in a rose garden now, after a month of merciless severity, since April the 9th. She is now experiencing an hour's truce. But may you, that scandalized, think too much importance is attached to a brief event, never experience what she is still suffering, and will suffer for a long time to come. Not one of you, intransigent doctors, would remain faithful as she was able to. She is suffering for you as well, arid towers of hard flint on the outside, filled with soft clay on the inside. For you that as always, Matthew chapter 23, verse 4, and Luke chapter 11, verse 46. For you that as always place heavy weights on others, but for yourselves do not want to be weighed down by even the weight of a feather. Let them grumble, Maria. I have always responded with silence to those grumbling about me. Matthew chapter 26, verses 62 and 63. A silence which grew deeper and deeper the more the grumbling became calumny, and the calumny accusation, and accusation condemnation, and condemnation blasphemy. On the cross it was a silence involving my gaze too. I looked only towards heaven, to see if I could encounter God's gaze, and my mother to refresh my soul in her purity. You are on the cross, and remain there. Be silent, and seek only God and Mary. Then Maria writes, my note. Jesus has me place the date of the 13th on this dictation, that is, tomorrow, but he dictated it to me at 6 p.m. on Friday the 12th. And right after I finished, I mean immediately, at once, my God, what a battle! I am terrified. I was overtaken again by that wave of desperation which gives me flashes of madness. I try to say the rosary, but I hear the devil guffawing and mocking me. Oh, Eternal Father, have mercy. There are moments when Satan wants to convince me that I am a fake, a mad woman, someone who deceives everyone. He wants to convince me that nothing is true, that I am damned. I would scream if I were alone to find an outlet, but I am at the house of others. The Giovanetti house in St. Andrea di Compito. See note 312. And who can understand? They are the moments when God, Jesus, Mary, and their voices and caresses seem to me to be the dream of an infirm mind, and yet I have heard those voices. Is it possible that I am mad? Mad only for this reason? I do everything else, correspondence, accounts, living arrangements, with facility and order. So, why can this horrid demon torment me like this? Cancel out even certainty about what I have heard and felt. Isn't the not feeling or hearing in these hours enough? Must I also experience a loss of certainty about what I have received? O Lord, O Mary, have mercy on me.